What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening. I wanted to put this in the top of the show. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/Brennan Tassif. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com to get your ex-drinking buddy merch. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, we're coming to you live from Gotham Production Studios, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
Grab me a beer and grab me a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, give you a quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do. Hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but it is still one of my favorite things to do. Hang out with somebody and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New Jersey, Chris Pattwell.
I do not have this kind of energy.
What's up, dude?
What's up? How you doing, bud?
Good, man. I always want to put an R in your name because of
Chris Pratt?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's annoying.
I just does everyone do that
Everyone
like all the time?
does it, yeah. Everyone does that, and they spell my name wrong, but it's only by missing like one T.
Yeah, because there's double T's in there.
I'm not sure if I should correct it or not.
People do that with the double
like
F's at the end of my name.
diva.
Well, no, you correct
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Because I'll see flyers and it'll say Brennan Tassif, but one F, and I'm like, that's not right.
Well, I thought your name was Tacit
Oh, did you?
for like months.
We've known each other for a few years now.
Yeah. I thought your name was Brendan at first.
Yeah,
And then
I
you
get that a lot.
corrected me on stage.
Yes.
And I was like, no, I called you Brendan. You were like, it's Brennan. And then I still thought it was Tacit at that point.
It's funny because I've been now in New York for 2 years, and I do, especially when I first moved here, I was doing a ton of mics. I've kind of toned back because sometimes they can be detrimental.
Yeah.
Like if you have a show coming up and you're like, oh, I'll do all my A material just to run through it, and then everyone just stares at you and you go, I need to rethink none of this works.
And then you're nervous on the show, like nobody likes this joke.
Yeah, everyone hates me.
Yeah.
So I've kind of toned down my going to mics, but like for the longest time, Drew, friend of the show, was calling me Brandon. And then he could not pronounce my last name for the life of him forever. And I was like, you've booked me on stuff. Like, we're friends. Yeah. Like, what is happening? And then I always find it funny when people will reference me. Julia's been really good about this at the New Joke Wednesday mic.
Yeah.
Because she knows. She'll be like, oh, Brennan's here. I can't do my bit about bullfrogs.
Yeah.
But she's the only one who ever nails it. And then sometimes people who have been on the show, people I consider to be like friends. I don't know if it's like a panic thing or something, but if they try to reference me in a joke or they'll say something horrific and then they go, Brandon knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's like a knee-jerk reaction or what, but
it might be. I think it's just not. I don't think Brennan's a very common
it's not
name.
At all. It's a common last name in Ireland. It's a common Irish last name.
There's Neil Brennan.
Kevin Brennan.
And then there was a Brennan's Deli where I grew up.
Oh,
but that's about it.
Yeah, in Jersey.
Yeah.
We got to talk about it. So it's your first time on the show. I've been wanting to have you on for a while. Like we told the listeners, we've known each other for a few years. You, before we get too far into anything, plug everything up front. You have the mic that you now run. You do shows.
Yeah,
let everybody know.
I got the mic on Thursday, Grizzly Pear Midtown, 5 p.m. Please come out. I got a couple spots next week at the Grizzly Pear.
Okay.
Downtown.
Got it.
McDougal. Got, Monday, midnight. Thursday at 8
Ooh,
p.m.
How's that show, the midnight show?
It's great, honestly.
Is it? That's awesome.
Yeah, Adam Gable and Gary Garcia produce it.
Okay, cool.
And they're great, and the show's like always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird for a Monday midnight. You wouldn't think.
Yeah.
You think that'd be like the worst spot to get.
That's why I immediately was like, what's that like?
You know what I think it is? I think the people that come out to a Monday midnight are just fun people.
Yeah, and they want to see that's why they're coming to a comedy club at midnight.
And they're like, it's something they found. If you go out on a Friday at 8 p.m., it's like you're comparing it to everything else you could be doing right now.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, this isn't as good as like Wicked or something like that. Yeah. But Wicked, nothing's going on Monday at midnight.
This is no Hamilton.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we
we
are
never
aware.
said it was, dude. Your ticket was $10. Relax. Okay?
That is an interesting thing because The Stand, which I frequent all the time, they have their Monday show Frantic, which is a free show at 10:30. But it is that weird mix of because it's a free show, but it's also at like a premier club. You get this weird mix of people who, because something given has no value, Starship Troopers. So it's one of those things where.
Great quote.
Thank you. But people come in, they'll like come in late, they're because it's a free show, so they're talking. They didn't pay any money to see the comics. They might like one comic on the lineup or recognize one name out of like the 12 that are on there. And it's a long show because it's also the audition show. It's the show they throw people up. Like if they owe them a favor for something, they'll throw them up on that show.
Yeah.
So like there's a ton of comics and some are prolific and some just did their hour. So they're like starting brand new and some aren't very good. So it's one of those funny things where it's just like, oh, this is a weird blend. But to your point, the midnight on Monday, it's like, oh no, this is like we're all down to have a good time.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I cannot believe that's like, I mean, I can believe it, but at the same time, that brings me so much joy to be like.
I know, I wouldn't have thought it going into comedy.
Yeah.
You would think like Friday night, Saturday night's where you want to be, but.
Sometimes those are the worst shows though, because you get people who have no business, like they're going to the Cellar or the Stand or to Grizzly Pear or wherever. Because they're like, oh, we're in New York, we have to see stand-up comedy.
I think it's more people that just like are like, I want to go out, and this is the thing to do, rather than people that are like, I want to go see some stand-up.
Yeah.
And they laugh. Those are the stand-up fans that laugh at like the silly stuff.
Well, and it's funny too because I've had people bring like a bunch of their friends to shows.
Yeah.
But they're not comedy fans. Like they don't it's weird to say they don't understand stand-up, but it's like, you have to know that like everything we're saying up here is hyperbolic or it's a joke. Like, we're kidding. Like never on, and I'm sure you're the same way. Never do I go up on stage going, oh, I hope I can upset people in the audience.
No, I
don't do that.
I get upset thinking about that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I offend people because I like pushing that line.
Yeah, I mean, you have
that's
to.
Fun.
You have to push the boundary to find where the boundary is.
If I ever see somebody that I'm like, you're genuinely upset, that actually bothers me.
Yeah.
I'm never like, F that person, you know? I'm just like,
you.
Yeah.
I've seen comics make people cry because they've said something and then someone in the audience has just reacted.
Yeah.
Like they've said a foul word or a derogatory term and someone in the audience will be like, and then they'll just turn to them and like heat-seeking missile them. And I'm like, I'll be in the back of the room as a comic, like I am so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like stop, please stop doing this.
Yeah.
Please stop. You said retarded and her brother has Down syndrome, so she reacted and now you're calling her like a dumb cunt in front of all these people. Like I've seen exactly that happen.
Oh, that's
and I was in the back of the room like, please stop. Please stop to the comment. I'm like, please don't.
That's
and they just start weeping in the front row, and you're like, oh, they'll never ever come see comedy ever again.
You say retarded on stage ever?
No,
me neither.
It's interesting because Ethan, friend of the show, Ethan Filler, he calls me the F word all the time. That's like his big thing.
Yeah.
He does it. I see him at Drew's mic a lot. And
that's another one I wouldn't say on stage.
And I don't say that on stage. And it's interesting because I had this old joke book from like 10 years ago, 10 years ago. And I'm the me now, like the sober me, the fun me, the like. But when I first started comedy, I was trying to be a shock jock. I was hammered. Like, oh my God. The first like 5 years of comedy, I was drunk every day.
Oh, that's great. And obviously not, but like.
No, but it was hilarious.
I'm sure that's,
Yeah. Like, so when people show up drunk to open mics and they make an ass out of themselves, I'm like, that's not even close
when
to
someone's drinking at an open mic, I'm like, that's a red flag. Unless it's like 8 p.m.
Well, and I've had people on the show, like Michael Rowland, very funny comic, Cellar guy. I had him on and he was talking about how when he first started doing mics and stuff, when he first moved to New York and he was still drinking, they would just take like a bunch of airplane minis to open mics and just get ripped. God. But now he doesn't drink anymore, obviously, because that's like you said, it's a huge red flag.
Oh,
like, there might be something wrong, dude.
I saw someone recently drinking a Heineken Zero at an open mic and I was like, I think that's worse. I think that's a worse red flag, actually.
I've never tried Heineken Zero, but I smelled it.
It's pretty great.
Yeah, and I someone had it at work, and I was just like, because we smell wines and stuff. I work in a fancy place, and I was like, well, let me just. And I was like, this smells so much like beer.
Yeah, it does.
It's like it's very tricky, because my brain immediately was like, oh, you can drink that because it's got no alcohol. But then my brain was also like, you can fucking drink that.
Yeah, a little too excited.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, and I was never a beer guy.
You never drink non-alcoholic beers?
No, I was never a beer guy to begin with. And I used to, when I first got sober, I used to get a Diet Coke in a rocks glass with a big cube. So it looked like a rocks glass is for the audience, is the little glasses you get drinks in.
I thought you were explaining it to me. I got offended.
No, I know. We're going to get into it. I know you know what a rocks glass is. But I would drink Diet Coke out of that. And I remember one of my first sponsor was like, hey, if you do that, that means you're not over like the lifestyle, because it's the lifestyle and I talked about this with Trousseau, but it's getting over that lifestyle that's harder than just not drinking. Like not drinking is very difficult
For sure.
but it's that whole like fuck you, fuck authority, live fast, die young lifestyle that's hard to get over.
Yeah, I think it's the habits too.
Yeah, I had to relearn how to do stand up.
Yeah.
When I got sober, but my sponsor was like, if you keep doing that, you're gonna relapse.
Yeah,
like but you're basically saying I want this feeling of being normal with my friends.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about that as I do with non-alcoholic beer. Now, I mean, if it works for people, it works for people. But my whole thing was like, if I'm drinking NA beer, and it has to be a zero kind of a beer, because a lot of NAs have alcohol in them.
Yeah. I think Heineken Zero is like one of the few.
It's one of the very few that has absolutely no alcohol in it. But I'm like, if I'm doing like, why? Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, I might as well just drink water, or if I really want to get crazy, I'll drink like a soda.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big water guy.
I agree with you. I think can be good for me. Like after work, I'll just have like one of those instead.
Yeah.
Because that never leads to 3.
Yeah.
But a regular beer.
Do I know? Yeah. Yes, I know.
You know what I mean? Do you know how drinking problems work?
Huh? You guys know what I'm talking about? You guys know?
That was actually the first time I realized like I had like a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Like I don't really consider, I don't know. It's hard to know if I'm an alcoholic or not.
Well, and people tell me that and I giggle because sometimes my bottom was I was in the hospital. I was dying.
Yeah.
I literally had and the listeners know this and I'm sure you've heard me talk about it before, but I literally had a doctor come in and go, you should have been dead 3 hours ago.
Oh, wow.
We have no idea how you're even awake.
Yeah.
With this blood alcohol content, normally people go into a coma or they die. Like
that's a pretty straightforward and stop drinking.
Yeah, and I talk about this in the one man show, but the whole bit was I just turned to the doctor and I go, "Oh, I've been training for this my whole life," and he did not laugh. And that was like it was just spiraled into this whole thing where it was like I knew I was destined to be a comic because when I was faced with death, I made a joke.
Yeah,
but I say all that to say, like, so when I go to meetings sometimes and people are like, yeah, I knew I had a problem. I had too many and I texted my like ex-wife or I texted my ex-girlfriend at 2 a.m. and that's when I was like, I got a problem. And I was like,
yeah,
that's a Tuesday. That's not a problem. What are we talking about?
I was going to say that doesn't sound that bad.
But I try not to judge. So whenever people go, I mean, I don't know. It's like, well, if you have a job and you're a functioning member of society, you're probably pretty okay.
Yeah.
Because, like, I was showing up to work drunk. Like, I couldn't get out of bed without doing shots.
Yeah.
Because I'd shake so bad and I'd throw up.
That's a good sign.
Like, that's when I was like, okay. And Joe List, a friend of the show, let me pick that name up that I just dropped. He always says, he goes, I'll have people randomly, like, DM me and be like, hey, man, how do you know if you have an alcohol problem? And he goes,
it's a good question.
Well, he goes, if you're DMing a stranger that you've never met before, you have an alcohol problem.
That's a pretty good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you,
I don't really ever drink while the sun's up.
Okay. So is that your thing? Like is that like
it's
a rule?
It's not a rule. It's just I genuinely don't want to.
Yeah.
And then once the sun goes down, I feel like all goes out the window.
Yeah.
Not that I go that crazy anymore, but like it's much harder to make good decisions.
It's interesting you say that because with the sun thing, there are times I like to work at night. That's why I work in restaurants. All the editing and stuff I do is normally at night. Like, I would rather wake up at like 8. Like, today was a rest day from the gym. So I woke up at like 8:39. But then I just laid around in my bed and like fiddled on social media and stuff until I had to get up to get ready to come here.
Yeah.
And I'd rather do that and then get home from work at like 10 or 11 and stay up till 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Than like get up at 7 a.m. and like try to do all my work during the day.
No, it sounds miserable.
And I don't know what that is. Like when the sun's up, I feel like I can't be as, to your point about drinking.
You can't be
like,
as productive.
I can't be as productive. It's like flipped. Yeah. Like I can't, when the sun goes down, I'm like, all right, I'll open my windows. I'm like on the computer. I'm like ripping and rolling. But it's like, if my alarm goes off at 7, I'm just like, fuck this. Like I'm not getting up. But then I won't go to bed till like 3 a.m.
Yeah. Well, that's because you're going to bed at 3 a.m.
Yeah. Good point.
But honestly, that's the funniest thing. So I stopped drinking I go like long periods without drinking.
Yeah.
Just as like a way to check myself. And it's good because every time I come back, I drink like a little bit less. But like.
Okay. So you go the other way. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing we talk about.
I don't like make up for lost time.
That's the thing we talk about actually in the super secret program I'm in. They actually mention that another sign of being an alcoholic is that when you come back to it, it's like you never left.
Yeah.
So that's a very good sign that every time you take a sabbatical and then come back,
a little less,
you go back less.
Yeah.
So that's definitely because normally in my experience as an alcoholic, when I would take a break and come back, I'd be like, fucking, now I have to drink 2 handles.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't drink all last month.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I like can't do that. And then the thing becomes like, I will eventually go back into old habits, but it'll take like longer.
Yeah.
But what was I saying about? Oh yeah,
So like, after work,
long periods of like I'll go long periods of being sober, and the first thing I realized after going like a year was that I still hate waking up in the morning. I thought that would be fixed. I thought all my problems. I said to Julia one time, I was like, oh, it's annoying. I haven't drank or smoked weed in 2 weeks, and I'm still like depressed.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, you're a
it's
human
a clinical
being.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust
you're
me,
still gonna go through that. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I'm doing
18.
the right thing.
Yeah. I didn't drink until I was 18, and all these scars come from way before that. Like the depression and anxiety is like, that's a thing. And it's interesting because sometimes I think in a lot of ways drinking saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because had I not discovered something to self-medicate with, because I came from a family where it's like you don't go to the doctor. Like what? And to my family's credit, like when my parents got divorced,
like a therapist
and stuff,
or like
well, when my parents got divorced, my dad was very at it. He was like, "You should go. We're gonna set it up. You're gonna go talk to." And I was raised in an Eastern European house, so I was like, "No, fuck that. Like I don't talk to anybody. Like we don't talk about our feelings.
Yeah, I kind of
brush it under the rug.
Family. Yeah, for sure.
And he and my mom, like everyone in my family had tried to be like, no, like I know we're like tough, but maybe we should actually. And I just buried all that.
Mm-hmm.
So then I found alcohol at 18, and all my anxiety and depression, all that like kind of washed away when I drank. So I think the reason I'm talking so much about this is because I just started thinking about this the other day. I was like, oh, alcohol might have saved me.
Interesting.
Because I was a suicidal kid.
Yeah.
Like I tried to kill myself when I was younger, and I was like, oh, had I not found alcohol, I might have done something more drastic.
Yeah, because there are obviously better alternatives, but you wouldn't have done them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So that's what I'm saying is like I found this thing that like made my anxiety go away. And I think I needed that to carry me through everything it carried me through until I was old enough to the point where I was like, oh, now I know how to deal with this stuff in a better way, a more productive way. When you go on your bouts of not drinking or not like sobriety, basically, do you do that because you're getting too out of control, or do you do that because you just want to reset?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like it's too out of control, but the stories that I have now are like nothing compared to like 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
Now my stories are like I woke up and I was a little tired, and then I didn't go to my mic, and then I didn't write for a week, and then my set went poorly, and then I'm like, it made me sad. So like that's my story.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago, I would have been like, oh, I punched a cop in the face.
Well, I want to get into
an exaggeration, but
we're going to get it. Yes, let's get into.
Yeah.
Before we get into all that, I want to talk to you since it's your first time on the show. I want the listeners to get to know you a little bit. Just talking about comedy, how you got into it. And I say this every time to preface it. Comedy is such a niche thing.
Yeah.
Stand-up is our whole world, but that's because we're in it.
Yeah.
So how did you even find stand-up?
I wanted to start, I ended up starting stand-up when I was 25. I wanted to start when I was like 20.
Okay.
I started writing jokes, and I told them to my brother, and he's so like supportive, and he was just laughing at everything, and I was like, oh, I'm fucking great. Like, and then
I'm fucking killing.
Yeah, this girl I knew got me on a show because it was Baltimore, so you could just get on a show.
Why were you in Baltimore?
I didn't know how easy this was. I went to school at Towson.
Oh, you went to Towson?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went to school at Towson. She wanted to get me on this show. I bailed. And
on the show?
Yeah, I just texted her like day of. I pussied out. I was so nervous.
And we know how much we hate that now.
Oh my God, that would have been. I would have.
If you were booking a show, and
she got me on the show without any experience.
She was doing you a huge favor.
She was doing me a huge favor, and I didn't realize.
Fuck you.
She's a whole nother story, honestly. Yeah, I don't even know if I should tell that.
You don't have to.
I would tell it. Yeah. Anyway,
maybe after.
Yeah, maybe
off
after.
mic. That's my favorite thing to say.
Is it? Because when I'm listening to a podcast, I absolutely hate that.
When they go, "Oh, we'll talk about it off mic." Yeah,
come on.
Well, I mean, you're doing it now.
I know.
Just don't text me in an hour and go, "Hey, actually, can you cut that out?"
Oh no, I won't do that.
That's my biggest. People are like, "No, fuck it, I'll say it."
Oh yeah,
and I'm like, "Hell yeah, this is podcasting."
Yeah.
And then a day later, they're like, "Hey, actually, can you take time out of your day and re-listen to the episode and scrub that part out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, cool," because I've just got 2 hours to just hang out and listen to my own podcast.
Yeah, I'm debating whether. Yeah,
you don't have to tell it, but
no, go ahead.
I want to know the first time that you bailed on stand-up. Why did it take you 5 years then to actually do it?
Yeah, so I think I just kind of gave up. I didn't even think about doing it for that period of time.
You were just
but
like,
I was still
pussied
like
out, I'm
writing
out.
jokes like
Okay.
periodically. I had like a whole notebook, and then my girlfriend broke up with me when I was like 24.
Yep.
And I was all like depressed.
The origin story, baby.
I didn't really know anyone in DC, so I was in DC at the time, like 4 years later. And then I just like one day was
Were you working in DC?
Yeah, I was working as a bartender.
Okay.
Pretty much the only thing
So
I've
you
ever
went to
done.
Towson, and then when you graduated, you stayed in that area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I moved in with a buddy.
Okay.
Funny story, I was going to move in, and I was like, I don't have any money. I was living at home with my parents. And then he goes, oh, all right. He's like, we need like realistically like $3,000 to move in.
Yeah.
Because security deposit, first month's rent, and you need a little bit to hold you over till you get a job.
Yeah.
And he already had a job set up, and then...
So wait a second. You said you were living with your parents. Your parents live in Jersey, correct?
Yeah, I just skipped over that part, but
Okay.
now I'm telling this
Got
story, which I think is interesting.
All right.
Which is, so he was like, you need $3,000. I have like $20 to my name at the time.
Yeah.
And then that week I won $5,000 in fantasy football.
Fuck you.
And so I moved in with him in DC.
Did you really?
Yeah.
What?
So that was funny.
You just like, was it like on a daily fantasy?
It was
like...
daily fantasy, $25 entry. I used to do $100 a week and never won anything. And then won
when
the
you
day I
needed the
needed
money
it the
the
most. I won $5,000 and then moved in, and then just
Damn.
blew it all like the first month.
Oh, yeah.
Not getting a job and drinking a lot. Yeah.
I trust me, dude. I've spent $26,000 in 28 days.
Wow.
Oh, you've heard that story, haven't you?
I probably have.
Yeah, I got.
I stopped writing your stories down and reviewing them at night, so I don't remember all of them.
Well, see, so this is the thing, because as a comic, I'm so in my own head.
Yeah.
That I'm like, oh, I can't tell this story. I've told
You
it at
think
like
everyone-
3 mics.
Yeah.
Everyone's heard it a million times.
Yeah.
And then you say something like that, and it's like, oh yeah, Brennan, nobody's thinking about you, like at all.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be. It's one like.
It's kind of a freeing realization.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, I can just do whatever. It was Espy got me one time, and Espy's a very good friend. Well, I love her. She's been on the show a bunch, but she got me one time because I said a bit that I had just wrote. So I was working on it for like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the second week of working on it on like the Saturday mic at the Pair. So I had done it like 3 or 4 times at different Pair mics that Espy hosts.
Mm-hmm.
And I do it, and I go, well, that's so weird. Sometimes this gets a laugh, and sometimes it's just complete silence. And from the back of the room, Espy goes, yeah, because we've heard it like 10 times.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And then I was like, you were absolutely right.
Yeah,
Everyone's
yeah.
listening. Da, da,
I was
da, da,
gonna
da.
say, It's like
just
all your
reinforces-
paranoia is coming in. Yeah.
And I really wanted to be like, really? You, of all people? But I didn't get into a fight. I was just kind of like,
You didn't
oh, yeah.
fight SB?
No, I would never.
She would beat you up.
Dude, she's got weapons.
She's intimidating.
It's funny because she's talking about being happier on stage now. Because when
Yeah.
I first moved here, her and I were like thick as thieves in the dark. Like we were like,
yeah.
fuck everybody. We hate everybody. Like, don't look at us. Don't touch us. And we were like, and now she's, worked on a lot of stuff and she's doing so well and we're so happy for her. I am so happy for her, but it was just funny because she got on stage and she's like, yeah, so I'm like getting over like all this like horrific depression. And I just from the front, I go, boo. She's like, what? I'm happier now. And I go, yeah boo. I don't like that.
That's funny.
I like everyone to be miserable.
She said she doesn't understand why. She goes, some people say I'm intimidating. I don't think so.
She,
I was like, really? You don't see it
when
at
I
all?
first moved here, I thought she hated me.
Yeah.
But then again, I think everyone hates me, but I really thought.
I think that's a normal thing.
Yeah, but then the more and that's the same thing with like everybody. Like, I think one of the only people who is like super bubbly and inviting,
Yeah.
Julia.
Yeah, she is one
Because
of
she's
them.
very much
She
like, oh my
doesn't-
God, what's up?
She never thinks people hate her.
She's
She
so
doesn't
happy.
have that, like, yeah, which is great. I don't usually think people hate me. A lot of people will think I hate them.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think it's a tone thing, or it's a fact that I
the
don't
Drax
really
in you,
like
man.
exaggerate. Yeah. I don't like, yeah, I'm doing
You
a
say
whole
what
bit
you
about it.
mean and
People are like, oh, I'm excited to see you. And I'm like, yeah.
Cool.
Cool to see you. Like, I don't know. I don't want to be like, I'm excited to see you.
But it was also
it's not true.
I mean, because you are a very like say what you mean kind of guy.
Yeah.
It's interesting because even with texting with you, because we had tried to do the podcast a few months ago.
Yeah.
And it was I was like, does Chris fucking hate me? Because you were just like, you were like, no, that doesn't work.
I'm very honest.
Yeah, you're like, no, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, like that day actually just doesn't work for me at all.
Yeah.
And then, like, I would text you, not thinking in my head, like, oh, he's at work, like, he's running around. And then you just wouldn't text me all day.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, hey, man, like, this is what we're going to do. And I was like, am I bothering him? Like, am I?
Yeah.
But it's just your personality.
Actually, there was a little bit of something I would like to explain to you, which is that you're texting me trying to set up a podcast about drinking stories.
Yeah.
And at the time I had, and still kind of do, like a family member who's like in the hospital for drinking. So I was just like, I don't think this is a good time for me to like have fun on a podcast about drinking stories while like,
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. But I just kept pushing away. I just kept being like, how about
No, I'm glad.
How about next week? How about next week?
That's good.
I wanted to ask you, so you said you break up with the girl, you're depressed, you're living in DC.
Yes.
And then do you decide like, I'm going to fucking do this?
Yeah, I said to my roommate, I was like, my best
Is this the
bud,
same
Tom,
roommate?
Same roommate.
That you moved in
I
with?
moved
Okay.
in with, yes. So my buddy Tom, who's not a comic, who I write with still.
Oh, shit. Okay.
He's just like a great person to bounce ideas off of. It's fun to write with a non-comic too, because they come at it with a different angle.
It's a completely
and they're
different...
never like saying things like, "Oh, crowds wouldn't like that," or like whatever. So
and they also don't see the misdirect coming when you're writing with them.
Yeah, and they laugh like an audience member would.
Yeah, because when you write with a comic, their first thought is the misdirect.
And they're like, oh, that's a trick, or like, oh, like whatever.
Hacky, yeah.
Yeah, I hate that word.
You hate the word hacky?
Hack. Yeah, that's such a terrible word.
I'm kidding.
No, but nobody should say it ever.
Okay.
Nothing.
Go ahead.
Nothing's
let them know.
hack. If you can make people laugh in a room, then that's it.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And if it's like cheap, then you're jealous or something, then shut up and go do it yourself. Okay?
This is very interesting, especially for the listeners, because I'm incredibly pretentious when it comes to comedy.
A lot of people are.
So you would think we would butt heads on this. I agree with what you're saying, that if you can make the audience laugh, and from me, as a person who's pretentious, who would push back with you on this, I would say 100% it's me being jealous of a couple of things. One, I'm angry with the audience where I'm like, you can't see what they're doing. Like this Dan Soder has a great bit where he goes, I wish I was dumb enough to go Vegas and mean it. And when people laugh at like hacky stuff, I go, oh, you're that dumb. Yeah. You're that dumb. Uh-huh. And me as a pretentious person, this is where it dovetails, is I'm like, I wouldn't want those people in my audience anyway.
Yeah.
And then I don't have a following for it. But I completely agree with you that if someone can, from a person who is pretentious and who does say hack all the time and like that's cheating and all that, from a guy who does that, I would say a lot of it is jealousy, because I can never kill as hard as those people kill on stage.
I think it is. And I think like the problem is that like if you really think someone's hack, they're going to hit like a ceiling of ability. And it's not like they're going to end up on like Netflix and be crushing for 10 years.
Yeah.
Because those hack people don't do that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Like, what are you worried about? Just let them be cliche and you get up there with your original thought and do well. Like,
yeah. Well, no, and you're absolutely right. And this is actually very cathartic, because I have friends of mine that are comics who have been in comedy twice as long as I have. And I've been in it for a while. But like one of my closest friends has been in comedy close to 23 years, I want to say, or 20 years. And he always says the same thing, because I'll get all pissy like, oh, this guy from Florida that I knew at open mics is like doing this bullshit on TikTok and now has this big following or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
And he'll go, Brennan, he'll get a run of clubs and then he'll go back because he'll sell them all out, and he'll do another run and it'll be the same shit. And then by the third time, no one's going to book him.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to pay a lot of money to go see the same stuff they've already seen twice.
Exactly.
He's like, it works itself out. So like, don't even worry about it. But the competitor in me is just very much like, you're cheating.
I get it.
You understand? You're competitive. You know what I mean?
I get that way when it comes to Instagram, because you'll always get like, and I'm not hating on pretty women, but they always get like a little more attention.
Yeah, a little bit of a boost.
And it's like, sometimes I'll get sent a video and I'm like, this joke's okay.
Yeah.
Like there's 30 other comics that are funnier than this person.
Oh, yeah.
But she's attractive, so she's got like 2 million views on it.
Yeah, let's keep women hating. So, because Julie has that great bit about how women are asking.
We don't have enough time for no.
You're from Jersey, I'm from Florida. Yeah, we don't have enough time. But to your point, social media, because so many people are like, oh, this is the answer.
Yeah.
this is how you do social media. Because I have, hundreds of thousands of followers. I'll tell you. And this happens to me a lot because I'm friends with those people that have hundreds of thousands of followers.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be like, oh, you have to make it pop. You have to make it do this. You have to make it do that. And I go, I think our material is just very different.
Yeah.
Like I talk about attempted suicides and almost dying and drugs and booze. And for certain audiences.
You got to make that fun.
But for certain audiences, it's hilarious.
Yeah, no, of course.
I crush at AA fundraisers.
Well,
dude.
it's like when I do drinking material on stage, like at mics only, really, because you're there and you're one of the few people. I mean, you have a great laugh, so it helps.
You.
But you're one of the few people that actually laughs at it. And I'm seeing other people, and this is my fault because I'm not able to communicate it better and make it a better joke. But I'm seeing other people like back down on it, and I'm just like, oh, this is only gonna hit like a certain audience. Like this is not gonna hit everybody.
Art is subjective for everybody.
Yeah.
And I went to see a band last night, John and the Projectors, and he's gonna be on the podcast next week. But
oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's at Dumbo
John
House.
And the Projectors.
Yeah, it's a very good band. It's like
what kind of music?
So they say like they're rebel jazz.
I know it's such a tough question.
It's fucking jazz.
Okay, it's just jazz.
It's jazz, and he sings. He's a very good singer, but it's very jazzy. It's very poppy.
Ooh.
But I was watching
Can you do
that.
the jazzy thing again?
The jazz hands. I was watching that, and I go, this is still subjective because people go, I fucking hate music, or I hate this music, or whatever. But I'm looking at the audience, and I go, this is so much easier than stand-up.
Yeah.
Because they're just playing. Whether you're listening or not, they're just going to play.
Yeah, there's no empty space.
But comedy, you have to engage with the audience.
Yeah.
And comedy is only funny from experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you tell your drinking stories on stage or you do your bits about drinking, those are funny to me because I've been in almost every situation you talk about.
Yeah, there's a connection. There's a relating. Yeah.
And then sometimes you go to a comedy club and everyone's like, oh, I just want to escape and have a couple of drinks and like forget my problems. And then I'm like, yeah, has anyone else here not gotten enough tension from their alcoholism that they faked paralyzed?
Yeah.
And they're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
Yeah.
But if I do that at an AA room or an NA room,
Crushes.
like obviously on a show.
Yeah.
I'm not like, hi, my name is Brennan. I'm an alcoholic. So is anybody else here? Huh?
Cheaper than going to an open mic.
Yeah, right. It actually is. But when I do those at like fundraisers and stuff, it crushes because everyone's like, oh yeah, we completely understand. So that's the thing, going all the way back to your point about the hack thing. That's the thing that I kind of get mad at is like, you're doing stuff that you know relates to everybody. And we'll bring this full circle with the social media.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, post like a catchy title about like a joke about going to the gym. And I'm like, I don't fucking do gym material.
Yeah.
Like that's below me. Like I don't do that.
Yeah.
Like I want to make people think and challenge the status quo. And that's
a good argument for the word hack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like this is I am above doing this stuff because it's so universal. And then a person listening who's into comedy would go, that's fucking ridiculous. Like the point is to have broad appeal and be universal. Yeah. But I don't see it that way.
Not really.
Because nobody likes Dave Chappelle because it resonates with everybody.
I think the idea is to get broad appeal through something that is personal or like that is real to you. It's not about like putting out whatever works.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the point of hack. But I think the problem I run into is that there are good comics that get discouraged by jokes and they tell me because some other comic told them it was hack. And I'm like, no, you're a good comic. And like you're trying to do something, and just because you had a genre that was like, or a premise that was like cliche, doesn't mean you're not going to get somewhere. You can't cut it off at its knees, and just call it hack immediately. That's the problem. I have seen comics that pander, and it's annoying.
We did the show in Philly. I did 2 shows in Philly a couple weeks ago, and the first show was a disaster, and I just pandered the whole time.
Oh yeah,
because no one was listening. Everyone was just talking, and I was like. Long story short,
them Eagles?
There was like 160, 100 to almost 200 people there, but most of them did not know they were going to a comedy show. The tickets were gifted to them.
Nice.
So they just thought they were having a fun night out, and it turned into this like everyone's like just sitting at their tables, drinking, eating, and talking. Yeah, and it's an event space. It's not a comedy club. The host literally went to get on stage, and one of the women, because it was a women's group, one of the women go, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm hosting the show." She goes, "What kind of show?" And he goes, "Comedy." She goes, "Oh, there's comedy?"
Oh God.
So I go up second to last because I'm featuring for the headliner. And I was like, a lot of strong, independent women here, huh? Yeah.
Nice.
I would know I was raised by a single mother. Like, I was raised by a strong, independent woman. Like, my sisters are strong, and I just kept pander.
You just didn't get
I've
the
been
punchline.
sober for 5 years.
I love women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love all of you women.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so bad. But I think that's a very good point. If people go through an experience, that's their experience. That's their lived experience.
Yeah.
And then you tell it on stage and people go, even if it's something small, when I say lived experience, I don't mean like a near death. Like, even like you go to the gym and someone farts when they're squatting, you're like, oh, that's hilarious. But then you do it on stage and someone's like, that's hacky. It's like, well, it just happened 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, so I don't really think.
Yeah, and it was super funny when it happened, so I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. If it makes you laugh and you're just doing it because you think it's funny and it makes other people laugh, I don't.
Like, fuck off.
There's no problem with
You
that.
brought me around.
Yeah.
I'm going to just start doing,
Yeah.
what are you doing, everybody? How are we? I'll just start doing that kind of stuff on stage now. I love it. Now.
I just listened to a podcast with Arnold and he did his own impression.
Oh, really?
He's such a fun guy.
Yeah. I just waited on him.
Conan and oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude, he's
in New York doing press for his book, and he came into the restaurant for lunch.
I'm like a huge fan now after listening to this podcast.
He's so good.
He's so cool and like smart. I'm like, dude, he's awesome. Like,
I said to him,
fuck yeah with this guy.
I didn't say this to him. I almost lied to you to make a good story. But in my head, I wanted to say to him, because he picks up, because his daughter called, the one that's married to Chris Pratt. And
his daughter? Okay.
And he swipes.
I didn't know that.
And he's got like this big iPad. And he's like, hello. And she's like, Dad, where are you? He goes, I'm in New York. She goes, I live in New York. What are you doing in New York? He goes, I was going to call you tomorrow. I'm doing press for the book. And in my head, I really wanted to lean in and go, you talk like that in real life? This might be a bit. I'm going to have to write this down. But I really wanted to say, you talk like that in real life. But he was so cool.
That's a good impression because you're not going overboard.
Yeah.
It's subtle.
That's the point.
Yeah.
That's funny. Doing? But yeah, it's an interesting thing. I love that guy now.
Yeah. No, I love it. And Conan does an impression of him in front of him on the podcast. And you would think it would annoy him because he's probably gotten the most impressions of any person.
That was my go-to. When I was drinking on stage, that was my go-to.
He goes back and does it more extreme. And then he'll quote movies. He'll be like,
Get to the chopper.
It's not a rumor.
Yeah.
That's what he said instead of it's not a tumor.
Yeah.
So like he'll just do his own quotes. He knows like how like quotable he is and he just leans into it. And I love that.
I've waited on very famous people before.
Yeah.
He is the Henry Winkler, Jennifer Lawrence, Channing Tatum, Zoe Kravitz, like famous people.
Yeah.
He's the only one where people like started to form outside.
Yeah.
And I asked the security guy, I go, what's going on? He goes, this happens everywhere we go.
He hits like every
demo.
Every demo because he was a politician.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Weightlifter. Huge
actor.
in the weightlifting. We still in the weightlifting community like love. Like me and my cousins still send each other Arnold memes.
Yeah.
Because like that's what he means to. I really wanted to be like, I work out 6 days a week just because of you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so strong because of you. It's all because of you, Mr. Schwarzenegger.
Well, he was I listened to him. He's also very like motivational, obviously.
Yeah.
He's done so much.
Obviously.
Yeah, no, like seriously.
Well, Burr has that great bit where he's like, could you move to another country, learn a language, you would become the biggest movie star of all time? Yeah.
He's a great man.
Yeah.
He is a great man, okay?
So what, he wanted to fuck the nanny?
So what? It's a layup.
I met that son. That son was with him.
Oh, the one that was born from that?
Yeah.
That's got to be weird.
He's like 21.
Imagine being born from a sex scandal.
Well, and also you forget how long ago it was, but how not long ago it was. Like the rest of his kids are grown-ass adults because he's like 74.
Sure, yeah.
This kid's like 20-something.
Oh, yeah. So it wasn't that. It feels less time than that.
Yeah.
But we were just talking about
that.
That's the most boring subject of all.
I'm sorry.
No. Just how quick time goes. That's what I meant.
Oh, I thought you meant the Arnold
thing. But he's very motivational because he talks about coming to the U.S. thinking bodybuilding was this huge sport. And it wasn't. And he finds out that it
was like, oh shit.
And so he's like, I hired a PR person to make this sport that I loved, that I was the head of, bigger. And I just found that like fascinating.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, oh, I'm going to move somewhere where it's more popular, or I'm just going to complain about the fact that nobody like loves this sport. It's like, it seems like the obvious thing to do, and it seems kind of like, oh yeah, of course he would do that. But I don't think it's that obvious, and nobody does it. Like, nobody else was doing that.
If you want a seat at the table, you got to bring your own chair.
And he hired like this young woman from a PR agency that was big, and they made the sport like bigger. And then he got more popular out of that. That's crazy. If stand-up comedy wasn't that big, and I was at the height of it, I'd be just bitching about it.
You'd be like, I guess I'm going to do movies.
Yeah. I guess I'm going to try to learn the guitar again.
I tell people all the time, because people will ask me, it doesn't happen as often now because the show was a year ago, but people will come up and they'll be like, you did a 1-person show. That's awesome. Like, how did you do it? And I go, I just did it. Yeah. I just did it. I racked up a bunch of debt. I was in the middle of a move from a woman that I had been together with for over 4 years. Mm-hmm. Like, my life was crumbling apart, but I was like, I want to do this. I'm going to just fucking do it.
Yeah.
You rent a space. Because so many people are just waiting for someone to give them something.
Yeah, I know.
It's the same thing. Like, when people come into the studio, they go, this is so nice. Like, you record here? And he goes, yeah, it costs a little bit of money.
Yeah.
But I fucking want it to be professional. So I fucking did it.
It is nice in here.
Yes, it's very nice.
I was impressed.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Plus, it's weird to be like, talking to comics and be like, hey, you want to come back to my apartment?
Yeah, you want to sit on my couch?
Yeah.
Hold a mic? Yeah.
But it's important, and Arnold is a very big motivator for me in that sense, where it was like, and it's a lot of discipline too, where it's like, no, this is what we do. Yeah. I go to the gym 6 days a week. It's what I do. When I record the podcast, I record it in the studio. Mm-hmm. Come hell or high water. Beg bar, if I got to, take my cash that I made from work and like ask someone to Venmo me the money so I have it on a credit card so I can actually pay. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we do it here.
Yeah.
This is where it's done.
I know. People ask me, how do you get into comedy? I'm just like, you just go to open mics. It. Yeah.
I've actually had people on the show where they wanted to be in show business so badly. The barrier to entry into show business is through comedy is the easiest.
Sure, that makes sense.
I've had people on who are like, oh, I started doing comedy because I really wanted to be in like showbiz.
Yeah.
And you can't go to an open mic for acting, but you can go to an open mic for stand-up.
Yeah, that pains my heart a little.
It broke my heart when I heard it.
But
I literally was like,
I don't want to hate on that because at least like it's literally doing what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Just doing it. But
and they're funny.
It does. Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
But still.
It is one of those things where you're like, oh, I grew up around this.
It's like I love stand-up. I don't want to do anything else.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Bring it full circle because that's the kind of host I am. How did you...
I was the one who made the segue. But
you did.
Yeah.
Teamwork.
Fuck yeah.
You teed it up and then I hit it out.
There we go.
Vice versa. I teed it up and then you hit it out. How did you get... So you said break up, you get back into it. When did you move to New York? I have two questions. One, when did you like go full bore into comedy? Was it right after that breakup? And two...
Wasn't.
When did you decide to do stand-up in the first place? You said at 20 you had always loved stand-up, but what was the first thing what was your entry point into stand-up? Let's start with that.
Like all the way back
to
like
when you first...
Yeah.
For me, it was Comedy Central Presents. I was 12 years old, and my cousin showed me this stuff, and I was like, these people are... Mitch Hedberg. I was like, Tom Rhodes.
Yeah.
Greg Giraldo. I was like, oh, these are fucking hilarious people.
Yeah, I don't know Tom Rhodes. That was the only... Yeah, Greg Giraldo was great.
Yeah.
Mitch Hedberg I didn't get into until later. For me, it was two things at the same time, which is a hilarious, like, comparison. I realized this, like, recently, was I listened to Blue Collar Comedy Tour, which I still think is great. I haven't seen it in like 15 years, so I might eat my words, but I still think that they're great comics. And Larry the Cable Guy's a great comic.
Dan is great.
Okay, you want to call him Hack? His real name's Dan, right?
Dan, he's from Florida.
No, I was referencing.
I thought you were coming after me. I was like, no, he said his name. His name is Dan.
No, I'm not gonna. You're a good dude. I'm not gonna attack you on your own podcast. Come to your own house. You
don't know what fucking Hack is. You suck.
All right.
Larry the Cable Guy's laugh at an open mic in 3 years.
It's only been 3 months.
That's the second podcast in a row I've been zinged. Teddy Fisher was showing me his notebook. He's like, yeah, I got 6 or 7 of these. And I go, oh, you write more than me. And he goes, yeah, it shows. I was like, you fucking son of a bitch.
That's funny.
That was hilarious.
That's funny.
And then you just got me.
Blue Collar Comedy Tour and the original Kings of Comedy. Which couldn't be more opposite.
Wow.
But I love them both. And I didn't think...
You have to talk about that on stage. That is polar opposite. Literally polar opposites.
I know. It's interesting, right? Or it's funny, at least. Yeah, they're literally the most opposite. Cedric the Entertainer and Larry the Cable Guy.
Yeah.
Great comics, all 8
Jeff
of them.
Foxworthy and then Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac. DJ Qualls. No, not DJ Qualls. I'm being stupid. He's the only name I don't remember.
D.L.
Hughley? That's who it is. Yeah. Steve Harvey.
D.L. Hughley, Cedric the Entertainer, and Bernie Mac. DJ
Qualls is a guy from Skinny White Guy.
From the new guy.
Yeah, he's the opposite of D.L. Hughley.
Yeah, that's why I was like, are you talking about, which group are you talking about?
The names are very similar, though, in my defense.
They are.
But yeah, those are the two I like grew up on. And I think what it was so daunting because they were doing it in front of arenas.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that I didn't even know of comedy clubs for like the longest time until I started listening to like on Pandora comedy radio, and you could literally hear people like eating and stuff in the recordings. And I was like, oh, this must have been done in like a small room.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like
all together.
figured out that there was like entries that you could actually just start doing this.
Yeah.
But I think even then I didn't realize you could just start doing it until like 26.
How old?
Till I was like 25, 26.
Okay. So how old were you when you found this? You had to have been a kid, like 12, 13?
Yeah. The Blue Collar and the original King, I was like young.
Yeah.
I was like 12, 13.
So then fast forward.
It was somewhere around when Dane Cook's Vicious Circle came out.
Which
Dane
would have
Cook, been 06, I think.
Harmful if Swallowed.
No, Vicious Circle was the one I'm talking about.
Because Harmful if Swallowed, that was the album.
Yeah, but
that was the album.
Yeah, there was an HBO special that I watched.
The next
and
one.
I think I would have been 15.
That would have been 08.
Okay, then I would have been like 17.
Okay,
so
yeah,
maybe
the Harmful if Swallowed was 06.
Maybe there's some muddiness there, but on the memory, but
I mean, I could be wrong. Harmful if Swallowed might have been 04 and that might have been 06. You might be right.
But anyway,
if only we had our phones on us. Do you have your phone on you?
I do, but it doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, okay.
Do you think it matters?
I mean, I'm a know-it-all, so it matters.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to look it up?
No, you're right. It doesn't matter.
Okay. I hate Googling things.
Yeah.
When people are like, look it up. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Do you really need to know?
Let's just not know.
Like, I'm not trying to attack you again.
You're right.
But do you really need to know when Vicious Circle came out? Like,
you want to hear something funny? I'm so the opposite of that. We went to Dumbo House.
You're like, I do need to know.
Yeah, I'm like, I get anxiety if I don't know. We went to Dumbo House last night to see the band, Tracy and I, and we're sitting looking at the beautiful skyline from Dumbo Park in Brooklyn. And she started walking, and I was like, hang on a second. And I'm pulling up the map on my phone. And she's like, what are you doing? Let's just go walk and enjoy. I go, I got to know exactly like what part of the city we're looking at. And she's like, you don't need to know. I was like, I want to know where Dumbo is in like comparison to like, because I'm like looking at World Trade, but then I'm also like looking uptown. But is that uptown? Because you forget that it goes like this.
Yeah.
So I was like, where are we?
Yeah.
So
you know what's weird is I actually understand that.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. That's a little different. Like, that actually makes sense to me.
I'm like, no, I have to know at all times.
Looking at
like,
the map
everything.
seems kind of interesting.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah. But just Googling, like, when Tom Petty's birthday was, when you're arguing about it, who gives a shit?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That might actually be the name of the episode. Who gives a shit?
Who gives a shit?
I wanted to ask you, so Vicious Circle comes out.
Yeah.
And what was that to you? Because Harmful if Swallowed, I say this all the time, and the listeners are sick of hearing it. I saw Mitch Hedberg, I saw Tom Rhodes, I saw all these great comedians. And I was
Not
like,
live.
No. Like, I would record on VHS Comedy Central Presents and watch it like a million times. And I go, oh, this is awesome, but I could never do that. Like, I don't have that kind of stuff. And then I saw Dane Cook do his Comedy Central Presents, which is a lot of the jokes from Harmful if Swallowed.
Yeah.
And he rips his shirt off and he pours the water on him in that tank top. And I go, oh, I want to do that.
Oh,
like, that's what I want to do.
Oh, so what was that for me?
That was the catalyst to get me into stand-up.
Yeah.
So for you, you had mentioned...
I love that.
Yeah, you had mentioned the two different groups, and then you had mentioned Vicious Circle. What was the thing that you saw where you were like, oh, that's...
I think all three of those was too big to see and be like, I want to do that.
Yeah, because
like that
Vicious
never...
Circle was Madison Square Garden.
I mean, some of Steve Harvey's like material and like Cedric the Entertainer specifically, I was like, I want to do that because that's like, there's just so much... animation and the way the crowd gets into it. White people suck. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
The way a black crowd gets into it, they're standing up,
dancing,
they're yelling.
spinning.
I'm like, this is what it should be. This is
fun.
great.
It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's fun.
And same with the redneck crowds of the blue collar. They react the exact same way.
It's weird that they think they're so different, but they're so similar.
Yes, there's a message there, and we should be the ones talking about it.
Yeah, we should be the ones.
Yes. All right. Anyway, but all of that was way too big to like. It was like I think the first thing that I saw that I was like, it was like Louis.
Yeah.
Just listening to Louis like talk about like because it was so good and funny, but it was also like a little bit of like philosophy, and I like love that stuff. Yeah. So I was like, that's what I want to do. Okay. Cool. I want to tell people how and Burr. Just the way he is like, what are you doing? Yeah. That kind of energy of like, look at all these people and what they're doing. Why the fuck are we doing it like that?
The soda's right over there.
And I remember...
me know because I don't fucking work here.
Yeah, that's so good. Because I have so much anger over small things.
I'm the same. I love Burke for that reason.
And every time I talk about it to people, they look at me like I'm crazy.
Like we're psychos.
Yeah. So if I could learn how to figure out how to, and I'm still learning, but like how to figure out how to tell this to people, like why somebody's dog in a Chipotle bothers me so much.
Yeah.
Why do you get to bring your dog everywhere? Okay? You don't deserve it.
You've done nothing.
Okay? Leave your dog at home.
Nothing.
You don't deserve a dog or you don't deserve a burrito. You can't have both. Okay?
That's the entitlement, the like challenge. And that's it goes all the way back to because since I got into stand-up, I started studying Lenny Bruce and reading all his autobiographies because, again, I'm super pretentious and a douche. But that challenging the status quo, and you have to, because you and I are similar in this sense where we like to do that, but we have to walk this weird line where you don't want to just be spewing hate speech in the sense of like, fuck you, you fuck it. We have to try to make it a little funny.
Yeah.
Like, ha ha ha. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, ha ha ha. But also, did you jump in the river with your wingtips on to rescue the dog? No, you got it. You got a fucking free dog from the pound.
Yes.
That's a Burr one.
Free dog. Yeah. I love the line free dog.
Yeah.
My buddy Tom, my writing partner, says it all the time. He's like, yeah, it's not funny as much of an angry rant.
The fact that you said he says it all the time.
All the time. He's like, I think we're at the stage where it's just angry right now.
Well, I saw, and I know I've talked about it before on the show, and I talk about it with comics all the time, and she might get mad that I'm even bringing it up. But when Julia did that bit at New Joke Wednesday about the women she sees on McDougal Street, it's so funny. And it's a perfect thing because she's innocent and she's a sweetheart and she's very like mild-mannered, but then she's like, yeah, I see what some of these women are wearing, and I'm like, aren't you scared?
Yeah.
And then I
think it's a great joke.
It's a great joke.
Yeah.
That's why I bring it up so often, but at the same time, it's one of those things where Aren't you scared is a great way of putting it. Yeah, aren't you scared?
Yeah.
But if you or I did that, they'd be like, who the fuck do you think you are?
I think they react the same way when she does it, too, which is weird.
I guess because I've only seen
woman-hating either way.
Have you seen it at a show? I've only seen it at Mike's. Has she tried it at a show?
I know she has, and I know it's not working because she hasn't continued.
Yeah, because that's one of those bits where I think it perfectly walks the line of funny but also angry.
I think so too.
And
I think some of those jokes take a little longer to figure out.
Yeah, no, they're harder to get. I mean, I had a bit where I talked about I didn't like being sober because it was un-American. Yeah, and I was like, like we ended prohibition 30 years before the civil rights movement. Like we were like, we'll get to them, but I need my booze.
But I need my beer.
Yeah. And I thought that was so funny. Like
that's funny.
How fucked our priorities are.
That's really funny.
And again, it's challenging this idea like our priorities are so fucked up that we stop women were able to vote.
I was going to say it would have been like 50 years before women were able to vote.
So because women were able to vote in 1929. It's the 19th Amendment. So
if we're going to give these women a voice, I need to be a little drunk.
I need to get fucked up. Yeah. So it's just so weird that it's like, like booze was so important. Yeah. But then it's like, then women were allowed to vote. And then we were like, all right, I guess we can all eat at the same restaurant. And to me, that's so fucked that I'm like, I have to point this out. But like you said, like some of those bits, they take a lot longer because you have to find every word matters.
I think I don't know. I'd like to think that they're just true. Yeah. And it's like, it's almost not funny because it's true. Yeah. Because it's cutting to people are just like, oh, that's right. And then they're like, that's not funny. Yeah. So like it becomes more of a challenge to be like, to have that emotion reaction and then make it funny. But then it really pays off because anytime you can make someone uncomfortable
and then make
you're
them laugh.
Just like, it's just like so close to making them laugh.
I wanted to get into some of the stories because I know you have a bit of a drinking background as we've already alluded to. I wanted to ask you, though, the second part of the question, when did you get into comedy full bore? When was that the thing?
I would say it was like...
when you were 26?
No. It's so messy of a story, and I don't think it's really honestly that interesting. Okay. It's just like, moved up to New York, tried to start it.
Did you start it all in D.C.?
Okay, I did. So I went I did like a year in D.C. Okay. Or a little bit less. And then I moved up to New York specifically... because this is the place to be. No. Okay. And so I moved up and just specifically to be a comedian here in New York because this is the place to be. Yeah. And I was, all excited, and it's such a shock to come from DC to New York. You started in Florida, so you have an idea. It's probably very similar of a shock.
Shocking, yeah.
You did it for longer, though, so I don't know if you had the same experience. Maybe you have an even worse experience, which was that, like, I was doing shows in D.C. I wasn't, like, getting anywhere necessarily, but it like, I was doing shows. I was, you know, and then you come up to New York, and not only can you not get a show, but you're paying for mics. Everyone kind of hates you.
Devastating is the word I would use for my situation.
Heartbreaking and lonely.
Yeah, because it wasn't so much a shock as, like, I was like, oh, I know I'll have to reset, but I'm funny. Like, I can hang.
Yeah.
And I got here and I was like I'm still like getting shows, like, but I approached it differently because I was like, oh, I have so much experience and I know I'm funny. I'll just hang at the stand or the cellar and eventually someone will wreck me and I'll get passed.
Yeah.
Which was totally fucked.
Yeah.
Like, I should have gone to the smaller clubs. I should have gone to New York Comedy Club. I should have gone to Stand Up New York. I should have gone to the smaller clubs.
Even smaller than that, honestly.
Yeah, the Grizzly Pears and the Broadways and stuff.
Yeah.
And this is no shade on any, like, the clubs know where they are in the ranking.
I don't think there's anything
but
wrong
like
with saying
I
that.
should have gone to the smaller. I should have gone to the comedy shop and hung out.
There's clubs that need barkers and then there's clubs that don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that's like
it's not a secret and it's not any kind of shade, but like I should have gone to those clubs.
Yeah.
But instead I was like, no, I've been doing this a decade. I'm a stand or the cellar kind of guy. So that's where I'll hang.
Yeah.
That's where
that
I'll make all my inroads. And it's paid off in the sense that I've been up at the stand like 5 or 6 times. I've been up at the cellar.
Yeah.
But
that's
like
great.
I've been here for 2 years and that's a total of 7 shows in 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's not enough.
You went up at the OG room?
No, I wish.
Oh, God. Okay.
I went up at Fat Black, but still.
Yeah.
It says the cellar in the back.
That's probably the one main thing keeping me,
McDougal
that keeps
Street?
me driven, is thinking about going up on that stage.
McDougal Street?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, like you think about, anyone thinks about like MSG or Radio City or like going on tour or whatever, or like, I don't know, none of that comes to mind. Netflix is kind of cool, but like that doesn't really come to mind. It's that stage that like keeps me like going, and I feel like once I get that, I'll just be like, all right, I'm good.
You won't. There's always something else.
Obviously that was a
Trust me,
that was a joke.
Yeah,
but,
there's always something else.
Once I get up there, I'm gonna be like sad.
Yeah,
that's really what it is. I'm gonna be like,
thing.
fuck.
I went up at the Fat Black, but still, because I took a video of it. I'm not allowed to post it because I'm not past there, but I have the video. And
you use it to masturbate.
I legit like get teary because comedy means so much to me. I mean, it saved my life when I got sober, and I honestly like get teary eyed.
I feel great about my masturbation comment.
No, let me finish. I get teary eyed watching the video, and then I use those tears as lubricant to masturbate.
He said, "Let me finish." I was like, "All right."
Okay, cool. So you get to New York, and then you're like, "Here we go." I wanted to ask you because you do have a history with drinking, not in like a negative way, but you drink. You used to drink a lot. You don't drink as much anymore. When did you have your first drink? Because you grew up in Jersey, correct? Before you went to Towson?
Yeah, my first drink was a Heineken.
Okay.
That was definitely left out for
Not
a long
double zero.
time. No, I was 14.
All right.
And it was my brothers. My brothers were throwing a party.
Yeah.
Two
How
older
many brothers?
brothers. Okay. Yeah, 2 older brothers, like 4 and 9 years apart. Like 4 and then 9.
Yeah.
Older than me. And I just found out I was unplanned like a week ago.
Oh, really?
My mom told
Breaking
my
news on
girlfriend.
the podcast.
My mom told my girlfriend Julia. I don't care about talking about this because I find it hilarious. My mom's losing it. She tells it like this. She goes, I bring my girlfriend Julia to meet her, and then she's just like telling a story from like 30 years ago. And about the piano, because it was like, it's whatever. And she was just like, yeah, the piano was bought right around we had Chris. Yeah, Chris was unplanned. And I was just like, what? And she goes, Chris probably told you that. I go, you didn't tell me that. This is how you tell me? Through a third party? What is this? You're losing it, Mom. You keep the secret for 31 years and you drop it casually?
To your girlfriend that she's meeting for the first time?
Yeah.
Please tell me you got to talk about that on stage. I mean, it just happened, but you have to bring
it just happened. It's one of those things that, like, you're like the second person I'm telling this story to.
Well, now there's about 7,000 other people that are hearing
Fantastic.
it. God. How did Julia react?
I don't remember. Because I was just reacting. I was just like, what? I didn't know this. Like, I don't care that much, to be honest. I don't know. I don't really...
I mean, you get older and you realize it, because, like, I'm a twin.
What does it matter? Yeah.
And obviously, my parents weren't expecting twins.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
So it's one of those things
So technically, you were unplanned.
Yeah. So
or your sibling was.
Yeah, one or the other.
Yeah.
Or maybe even both, if you think about it. But it's like one of those things where it's like, well, I'm here now. Like, Who? Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't care. It's funny though.
Yeah. That's
honestly, if something's funny enough, who cares?
yeah.
Yeah.
I say
Who
that
gives
all the
a
time.
shit?
Like with the porn thing with my ex. I see what you did there. That's fucking. Now that
I
has
wish
to
I
be
didn't hit the
title.
mic during that. That would have been a great moment.
But yeah, I mean, it was a great moment. I just
Thank
don't
you.
know. Am I allowed to put shit in the title and blast it all over social media?
I think you would put the SH and then like the asterisk. Yeah.
All right, that's what I'll do.
I know a lot about this podcasting game.
Well,
I'm really
especially
good with
social media.
Social media. I have almost 600 followers. Dude, I started my Instagram like 2 years ago. I wish I would have. Yeah.
I think about.
I didn't know how important this thing would be
I was
to my
around
life.
when it first fucking started,
Yeah.
dude. I was there when people were like, "Oh, it's
I hate
just
the whole-
it's like Facebook, but it's just pictures," and I was like, "Stupid."
Yeah. Just pictures? Like, yeah.
It's fucking dumb. And
I know.
now it dictates
It's
where
still
we get
dumb.
booked. It's still dumb, but it
Yeah.
dictates where we can get booked.
Yeah, I know.
And
It's the worst. You know what? The only one benefit is I follow a bunch of comedians that are friends with me. Friends with me. That's a weird way of putting it. They're friends with me. I'm not friends with them. But like, so my feed is so boring.
Yeah.
It's just all these jokes that I've seen before.
Or it's like just flyers for shows coming up and stuff.
Yeah,
you're
and
like,
it's
all
just
right.
like, all right, comedy, and then I don't scroll because of it.
Yeah.
Which is actually great.
That's
I go
why-
on for 5 seconds and I'm like, I hate this, and then I
See, my problem
do
is my
something else.
algorithm has gotten to know me pretty well.
yeah.
So like on my lifting account, it's all like lifting and like hot people and stuff.
I know.
And then I have my comedy account, and it's gotten to know me.
Yeah.
So it'll be like joke that it'll be like, because I follow like super famous comics that obviously some of them I know and some of them I don't.
Yeah.
So sometimes it'll be bits, and then I'll go down a rabbit hole, and I'll basically listen to their whole special through the clips
Yeah.
and stuff, and it just sucks me in, dude. And I fucking hate it.
I actually think this is interesting. Do you think the algorithm's going to get better? Because it's not good. Because I feel like I don't want, like, let's just say pictures of hot women.
Mhm.
Just because I look at it like literally like 2 seconds longer than I look at something else, it doesn't mean I want my whole fucking
For your
feed to be
that,
about
yeah.
that. So it's like, do you think, because I don't think we know what we want.
Yeah.
And you would literally have to
That's
teach,
why I think the algorithm is fucked.
you have to
because we don't
teach
know.
the algorithm to like send you stuff that you like. Like you have to specifically start searching stuff.
Yeah.
Do you ever think it's going to get like better where it actually shows
Just,
me
like,
like
reads our
stuff
mind?
that actually makes me maybe feel good, or like stuff?
I hope so, because it's, and the thing I have a problem with now is like, oh, like some of my comedy people might like, but because they've never seen it and it's not in their algorithm, they'll never know.
Yeah.
And like that frustrates me.
It puts you in too specific of a rabbit
Yes.
hole.
That's what I don't like,
And like I don't need
because then I'll get lost down it.
Yeah, I think I made my point.
Yeah, you did. The listeners know. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
The Heineken. Let's get back to it.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
your brothers were having a party.
Definitely left out for a long time. I didn't realize that for a while.
Okay.
Or I just hated the taste.
So you drank it and you didn't
It was like
it.
a half. It wasn't it was half
Ooh.
empty. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And what happened?
I wanted to taste the beer. I didn't
Yeah.
really think about someone else drinking it,
Mm-hmm.
or like.
I'm just saying ill because it was open and flat and gross.
Oh, I thought you were getting like going a step further because
No.
it's like a party and
I'll
they're-
S your D right now. Like
Yeah,
that doesn't
yeah.
bother me.
Will you?
No, not on camera.
Okay.
But that germ. I don't give a shit about germs. I'm saying because the beer.
no,
was
neither do
gross.
I. Yeah, I'm the opposite of a germaphobe. I just like really don't care. But
I'll lick a Subway roll.
it
or
was
rail.
gross. And then that stopped me from drinking for a little bit.
Okay.
And then I had the first like drunk moment with my brother and my buddy, and we just hung out in a room. And
Was this
probably
back home?
probably the best night of my life. Because that first drinking, I had 5 beers, and I was like, this is amazing.
And how long ago, or how long after the 14-year-old Heineken incident?
My guess would be 6 months.
Okay.
I don't really know. Yeah.
And was this at the house in Jersey?
This is starting to feel like a therapist session while you're writing down. And you're
I
like,
take notes because I don't want to have
Yeah.
to go back and re-listen to make the podcast.
No,
notes.
I'm just.
I need to have at
playing
least
around.
3 things to put in the Great X Drinking Buddy stories this week.
Yeah, this is my parents' house.
Chris talks about his first time drinking
Yeah.
a Heineken at 14.
Yeah. The parents' house in Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, where they still live.
So did you end up after that, like having this awesome night, like just hanging out, getting drunk, drinking beer
Yeah.
at like 15 years old? Were you immediately like, oh, this is going to be a fucking party, like a good time? Or were you like, oh, that was fun, but I don't want to do it anymore?
Well, I was a loser in high school, so
Okay.
it took me a while to drink that much.
Okay.
You know, because nobody was inviting me anywhere.
Yeah.
You know? So like I would have like occasional parties
Mm-hmm.
that like a friend of a friend of a friend knew Just a random, and I would be like,
I played on the
okay.
football team, and I would it was almost like an accident when I would get invited to parties.
Did you have that moment where you found out that they were having a bunch of parties? I didn't even know. I didn't know I was invited
because
I didn't know I was not invited.
I have
until,
a twin sister and an older sister
19.
who's only like a couple years older than me.
Okay,
and they were both super popular. And my older brother, who's 6 years older, is super popular.
Yeah.
So I knew that high school parties were a thing. Luckily, I went to a different high school than my sisters, so it wasn't like a direct thing, like where your girlfriend's banging some other guy. But it was like, oh, I know cheating's like a thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, it does.
I know parties are going on.
I love that's where your head went immediately. Yeah. That was the analogy you chose to
make.
Porn
star, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep saying porn star, even though that's not what it is at all.
Because she's not a star?
Well, yeah. But it sounds so much stronger.
To fail as a porn actress?
Well, it's interesting because this was so long ago that now it's like... Now it's just like OnlyFans stuff. Like we see it. We see we know comics who do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But 10, 15 years ago, like you had to get a webcam and like set it up and find a site to distribute it. So it seems so much worse because it's older.
You never hear about the people that fuck someone to get ahead and then they don't get ahead.
Oh God, that's got to be the worst.
Yeah.
So when did you get out of your shell? When did you start like
heroes
party? Because if you weren't doing it in high school, okay.
College.
So you get to Towson.
I think it was just like I wanted to be drinking and partying, and I wasn't didn't really have an outlet for that.
Yeah.
So then the second college hit, and I was like, you kind of... Did you go to college?
Yeah.
You kind of have that like...
Played college football.
Yeah, that's right. My bad. I would have said that you played college football, but the fact that the idea of you going to class just doesn't seem... I'm
a know-it-all. I love class. I would sit in the front.
I was trying to make a dumb joke.
I'd raise my hand.
Yeah. Do you want a high five?
No, I would raise. That's what I would.
You would raise your hand?
Yeah,
that's a normal thing.
I would try to answer every single question.
Gotcha. I'm a little bit of a know-it-all too. A little bit.
Oh, are you?
I love getting the answer right.
I fucking love it.
Yeah. That's why I would only raise my hand if it was like a tough question.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to get it. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Everyone knows this one.
We're such losers.
I know. Good. That's what I'm talking about. That's why
we weren't invited to parties.
My point of asking you was because it's true, the trope of college where you get to go and you're 18, and when you're 18 in high school, everyone still sees you as that whatever you were at 13.
Yeah.
But then when you're 18, you go to college, you're just like, this is who I am, and everyone's like, oh, this is who you are.
Yeah.
And so like you just meet everyone, and now I'm like a little more outgoing or social at 18, and I'm not like weird or whatever I was.
Yeah.
I was just quiet, I think.
Well, I say it all the time. When I first showed up to college, it was a summer semester because I got accepted but then took like 8 months off. Mm-hmm. So I lived on my own because I moved out at 17. So I lived on my own and partied and stuff.
Yeah.
I was kind of coming out of my shell. But then when I showed up to college, my roommate that I was living with, Sean Michael Murphy, shout out, the pirate, he was ripping a bong. Like when I got, like his dad left and he just started ripping gravity bongs.
Yeah.
And he's like, you want some? And I was like, I don't really smoke weed. He goes, well, then let's go get some fucking rum. This is like hour one at college.
Meeting him?
Like at 2:00 in the afternoon. Like my uncle left because he dropped me off, and then his dad left, and he's like, let's get fucking ripped.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, because even when I lived on my own, like getting drunk, I wasn't an alcoholic at that point. Getting drunk was like something we did like once a week, maybe. Yeah. But this is like a Tuesday, and we have class tomorrow. And I was like, yeah, let's get fucked up.
And then you just realize you can do that.
Nobody's going to stop you.
And you just do it.
Yes.
And then you do it a lot.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So you got there. Were you like
I lived off campus in a suite in a Marriott.
What?
Yeah. There was... My mom works for the Marriott, so I got like a good deal.
Yeah.
Well, she got a good deal. She like paid for it. And then so I lived in it sounds more luxurious. It was kind of just like a one room, like they called it a suite, but it really wasn't, honestly, because it was Towson, Maryland.
Yeah.
And so they overbook people, and then they're just like, deal with it. Like you can come to our college, but you got to find living.
So wait, they overbook people for the living arrangements?
Yeah, which is annoying. And then just
how is that even legal?
I don't know. I don't think it is. And then fortunately...
Is it a public school?
I don't know what that means.
Okay.
I know like public, probably the opposite would be private, but I don't know like, the answer to
NYU
that.
is a private university, so they can kind of do what they want and get away with it because it's private. Like Florida State is a public state school, so the state runs it. So like if it
used to be Towson State, and then it became Towson University.
So maybe it is.
Does that answer?
I just don't understand how a school could like tell people you have a place to live and then
like 2 weeks before you're supposed to show up,
be like,
just
we overbooked.
Yeah,
that's fucked.
Yeah, it was kind of fucked. But fortunately, like, it just kind of worked out.
But your mom had the hookup.
Yeah. And my mom's awesome. She just, like, drove down, like, that day she found out and then went to the Marriott and was like, listen, you're going to give my son a place to stay at a good rate that I can afford because I've worked for this company for 20 years. So.
And they did?
And they did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So did you, would you party on campus with your friends or would you party at the hotel?
No, they would come to the hotel.
Fuck yeah, they would.
Yeah.
Hotel parties every night,
I threw hotel parties. I tried to keep it like at a limit.
Yeah.
Because security would show up.
Yeah.
And they would knock on my door. And one time they knocked on my door, they were like, you're having a party. And I was like, no, I'm not. And then they were like, you're having a party. I can see it. And I was like, no.
We can see the people.
And there's
smoke coming out of the
room. And they were
room.
literally just like, we can smell smoke in the hallway. And I was like, nope. They're like, your eyes are very red. And I was like, nope. And then they go, just keep it down and close the door. They're just like, this person's making like minimum wage. He didn't
they don't give a shit.
He didn't give a shit.
They
like, shut up, you fucking
I have an international law professor, my favorite professor of all time. He would always say, deny, 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 then counter accuse.
Yep.
You're smoking. I'm not smoking. You must be smoking.
Are you high? You're high. You're high as a kite.
So how long did the Marriott thing go on?
Is this too late to ask to go to the bathroom?
We have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
I figured that was going to happen.
Yeah. How long did the Marriott thing go on for?
A semester.
Okay.
And then I was able to get on campus.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you got on campus, did it get better or worse as far as the partying?
There's some stories there. It just got worse for like a while until I got tired of it my senior year.
Okay.
Yeah. We didn't get to a lot of this. There's like, I don't know. There's a bunch of drunken stories.
Well,
the problem with drunken stories is my friends have to like remind me what happened.
Oh, trust me. I'm very aware of that. Yeah.
Because I don't like have as many good stories as I just blacked out, really. Yeah.
I stole a car one time and did not remember until someone was knocking on the window because it ran out of gas. And I like tried to pass out in the back seat.
Oh, wow.
And a cop knocked on the window. Luckily, it was someone I played high school football with.
There you go.
And he was like, Tassif? And I was like, Shorts? And he's like, what the fuck are you doing out here? I go, the car ran out of gas. He goes, you're hammered.
Yeah.
Did you drive this? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
He's like, get in the fucking car.
Damn.
And he just took me back to my house.
I got pulled over drinking while driving and somehow got out of it. I don't even know how.
Like you weren't
17.
drunk, but you were drinking while you were driving?
I wasn't drunk yet.
Yeah.
But it was my second or third beer at 17.
And you had just started drinking.
And I was drinking while driving. I literally had a beer in the cup holder. And I moved it from the front cup holder to the back cup holder. That was all I did. And there was a 30 in the back seat with my buddy Ryan.
Oh, God.
And it gets worse. I technically wasn't drinking while driving because my buddy Ronnie was steering while I was in the driver's seat talking to my buddy in the back seat to freak him out. And then a cop pulls us over. And somehow he lets us off with a warning. I don't even know how.
I think I know how.
I think it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how we did it on the side away from the camera.
Oh, okay.
White privilege.
I don't
That's
care.
what we're talking about.
I mean, I'm admitting it. I didn't realize it at the time. At the time, I was like, I'm a smooth talker.
No, you're in Jersey. They're like, hey, he's white. Let him go.
Whatever.
We got to get you back on.
Yeah,
because you have
I would love to. I had a lot of fun.
A ton of stories, and now we know what time works best for you. So we'll make something happen in the next month or so.
Maybe we can actually get to one of the stories.
Get a part 2. Yeah. Plug everything one more time. Your social media with all those followers.
Chris Pattwell Comedy on Instagram. Please follow me. I need the help. And Grizzly Pear Midtown. I run a mic at 5 p.m. on Thursdays. Come out. And just come to the Grizzly Pear downtown location every night of the week. I'm there like 2 or 3 times a week. So come out to that. It's fun. Perfect. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening at BrennanTComedy.com. Brennan T Comedy on all social media. Check out the one-man show, also titled Ex Drinking Buddy. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Thanks for having me. Beautiful.